Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com.
How to educate one's child in molestation prevention and awareness. In the previous halacha we discussed the halachic obligation of a parent to educate their child in matters of modesty, which include preventing their child from being a victim to another perpetrator's evil intentions. And now we will deal with a number of suggestive actions and practices and guidelines that have been acclimated from leading child psychologists and educational experts to help with prevention and awareness. We have categorized the subject into two parts, one being prevention guidelines, the other being awareness guidelines, otherwise known as P&A. Guidelines of prevention that help a child avoid situations that make him vulnerable to a preying predator. Number one, yichud. As discussed in the previous halacha, in the obligation of educating one's children in this matter, we explain that the Mechaber and Shulchanaruch rules that in a morally debased generation, it's forbidden to have yichud even with another person of the same gender. Accordingly, one's children must be educated from a young age about the laws of yichud. A 3-year-old girl is not to remain alone with a man above the age of bar mitzvah. A 9-year-old boy is not to remain alone with a girl who is above the age of bas mitzvah, as clearly written in the laws of Yichud, chapter 22 in Shulchan Aruch. And furthermore, based on the above ruling that we mentioned of even the same gender, children and adolescents should be educated that it is halachically proper and necessary to distance themselves from being alone with another person, even of the same gender, and even if they are relatives, unless it's under parental consent. If a man or woman asks or lures a child to a private area without parental consent, the child should be educated to know that this is not okay, and either to voice this to that individual or at least to inform the parents of what happened. Certainly, in light of the above, teachers or tutors should not be having one-on-one private sessions with a child in a closed or locked room, and the room should always remain accessible to the public. Furthermore, parents should supervise that siblings of opposite genders do not share rooms starting from a certain age, and even the same gender, children should have guided, practical guidelines as to how they are to act with each other as roommates, in a form of modesty. This especially applies during the pubescent years of a child, in which raging hormones search for outlets that can cause other family members to chas v'shalom fall victim. So parents must be cautious to know, to pay attention as to how even siblings act with each other. While this preventative suggestion may sound exaggerated or unrealistic to some, this is in fact the Torah suggestion of how to prevent immoral behavior, to avoid yichud. And as we mentioned, in an immorally debased generation, it is a halacha even regarding the same gender. Number two, mikvah. Unfortunately, the mikvah is by no exaggeration one of the main centers where child molestation occurs in the Jewish community. We tend to erroneously think and mislead ourselves that since it's a public area, and certainly there's no yichud taking place there with another person, it's a safe haven for our children. Experience, however, shows that in fact, yes, it's a safe haven, but not for the children, but for the perpetrators, as that is one of their most primary bases of opportunity to launch attacks. Accordingly, parents, together with their desire to educate their children in a Hasidic chinuch, Hasidic anhag of going to mikvah, must take precaution and be realistic about the dangers that may be involved. And practically what this means is as follows. Young children have no business ever going to mikvah alone. A young child who is not near the age of bar mitzvah has no chinuch obligation in going to mikvah. And if he can't go under supervision, it is better that he not go at all. Point two. Even when fathers accompany a child to the mikvah, they must have 4 pairs of eyes on the child. Person shouldn't think since I'm in the same building he's safe, as unfortunately experience has proved otherwise. Number 3. Even when children who are near or over bar mitzvah begin going to mikveh every morning, as is the custom of Chassidim, they are to be educated in how to act in a mikveh and be told once again of their awareness guidelines that we will go through momentarily. The third and last suggestive practice for prevention is be aware of known community predators or offenders. The United States Department of Justice, as well as community organizations, rabbis, community leaders, have the information and at times publicize the information of suspected or convicted offenders, and parents need to make themselves aware of these people and make sure to keep their children a safe distance from them. At the same time, this makes note to community leaders that every community has an obligation to warn the public of the said individuals if they know something, and not to ignore red flags which allow predators to continue their victim list for years on end. We will now move on to the awareness guidelines, which is about making the child aware of what molestation is. Number 1, your body is only yours. Explain to the child the concept of privacy of tznius with his or her body, that it's only theirs, that is not allowed to be touched or seen by anyone else, unless it's a doctor, a caretaker, a parent, who in the position of their job must do so. But otherwise, no one else is ever meant to see and certainly not to touch their body. Explain to the child the existence of the private areas and how they must be kept clothed, and the best practices at home, teaching one's children modesty and privacy when they go to the bathroom, to lock the door when they're taking a shower, and educating them how to act with their siblings. Some suggest a traffic light system regarding touch, labeling innocent and clean touches such as shaking hands, holding your hand when you cross the street, tapping your shoulder as green light, telling your child this is a green light touch, this is okay. You don't have to tell me about this. A touch that makes a child feel slightly uncomfortable, such as a hug or kiss from an unwanted individual, or touches that occur under clothing, should be labeled a yellow light, of which they should let their parents know. And touches that occur under the bathing suit area are labeled a red light, and they must inform their parents of such touch. Together with this, with the body awareness, one must emphasize 2 more points. Number 1, that these rules apply to everybody, including siblings, cousins, friends, and teachers. They too may not transgress the yellow or red light system. And if they do, the parents are to be told. Also that they apply even if the touch feels good. Even a good feeling touch that's a yellow or red light must be told to the parents. Awareness guideline number 2. Another person's body is only theirs. We cannot forget that many children are not the victims, but are actually the innocent perpetrators experiencing the bodies of other children. Or, often predators do not touch the child's body, but ask the child to touch their body. Thus, we must also educate the child that just as their body part is private, so too is the body of other people and other children, and they may not look at it or touch it. And this applies even if the other person consents or requests the touch. It's still not tznius, immoral, and may not be done. Number 3, saying no. Often children are intimidated of telling off another individual, especially if they're an adult figure. Practice with your child saying no if an inappropriate touch takes place, and train them in how to escape the situation. Number 4, not to keep secrets. One should educate his child that there is no such thing as keeping a secret from their parents, from mommy and tati. Anyone who tells them, don't tell your parents, is a sign that they should tell them right away. And even if they say you're going to get punished or hurt if you tell your parents, tell the child already now that if a person says such a thing, that person is lying. And I will believe and cherish you for sharing with me what they said. Parents must ensure their children they will not get into trouble for telling their parents. Number 5, even very nice and friendly people, relatives, or other children can do bad things. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, only 10% of perpetrators are actual strangers to the child. All the rest are people they know, relatives, which include children themselves. Accordingly, all the above guidelines of touch and secrets must be clearly spelled out to the child that they apply even to very nice people, people they know, very close relatives, friends, or siblings. The last of these guidelines, number 6, is an occasional review. It's not enough once in a lifetime to tell this to the children. Periodically, a parent must review with their child these guidelines so they remain fresh within their memory. God willing, with raising the awareness, which brings along prevention, we will be able to eradicate this epidemic from our midst and inherit to the next generation a cleaner and purer environment where perhaps these guidelines won't even be needed.
Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com. Our free services of making Torah knowledge available to the public depends on donors like you. Please help us continue our work through making even a small contribution at Shulchanaruchharav.com under the Daily Halacha Dedication section or in the subscription page. Also, check out our online courses and many sefarim available for purchase that will both enhance your Torah knowledge and help support our work.